Recording is on. Welcome everybody. I'm Irene Pasternack, teaching Feldenkrais with Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. And today I have a lovely lesson that wraps up our month of June that works on posture and shoulders and knees and walking and kind of pulls it all together, and it's a fun, playful one. So to start with, I'm wondering, what are the sensations you use to know that you are comfortable? Where does your attention go? If I said, just check in with yourself right now, how's your posture? How are you feeling? Is there a place your brain goes right to? Your attention goes. And if it does, go ahead and shout it out. I'd like to hear some of your favorite scan places that tell you how you're doing. Joan?
Mine's my legs.
Your legs?
Yeah.
So what do you sense about your legs when you're...
Like when I sit down, do they get relieved?
Uh-oh, you froze.
Oh, okay. No, when I sit down, you know, my legs don't feel as comfortable as the rest of my body.
So there's like an agitation, something in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And Cindy, you had something.
Yeah, my low back.
Your low back, right? So if your low back hurts, it's like, oh, something's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My hips.
Your hips. The hip joint or the up a little higher?
Right around my rear end.
So it's uncomfortable sometimes, and sometimes it's...
Right, yeah. Hips, maybe lower back.
Okay. Anyone else have a spot that they were like, oh yeah, my attention went right there? Okay. I'm going to go through a few of the classic ones. One of them is, and it's one that you can really feel and see when you're on Zoom, is your chin forward or your chin pulled back a little? Play with that and just notice where's your head in space. Do you have more weight on one sit bone than the other? If you were sitting on two scales, would one scale register more than the other one? Where'd you put your feet? Are they under your knees? Are they tucked back? Are they out to the side of your knees? Are your knees out and your feet in? Do you feel more tension in the front of yourself or in the back of yourself? The front of your shoulders or the back? When my kids were little, the University of Washington Mechanical Engineering Department had an open house, and they had a machine that tested the tensile strength of materials by, you'd clamp it on both ends and then pull until it broke. And so, of course, with this exhibition was designed for kids, they used Snickers bars and different kinds of candy bars to see which had the stretchiest before it broke. But if you imagine that machine was kind of pulling on your shoulders, with the front of it have more stretching it had to do, or the back? Imagine yourself as a snowman. You've got a ball for your head, a ball for your shoulders, and a ball for your bottom. Is your snowman standing up or tilted in some direction? Even in sitting, it's easy to sense that snowman. Okay.
We're not muted.
Yeah, I'm gonna just mute everybody for now. And when you want to speak, just unmute yourself. So stand up for a moment. And in standing, there might be something you use to sense yourself, to sense, how am I doing today? How, are my meds on or my meds off? Where does your attention go to assess your standing today? And then begin to walk. And I want you to notice what happens when your right foot comes forward. What does your body do? So you might need to walk kind of in slow motion. Step forward with your right foot and see how your body responds. Does it turn? Does it twist? Does it, where do your shoulders point? And what allows you, when you step forward on your right foot, what does your body do that helps you lift your left leg to take the next step? How do you lighten that leg to take the step? And then begin paying attention to what happens on the left side. So when your left foot goes forward, what does your body do that helps you lift your right leg? And like always, at the beginning of the lesson, it may be, that's interesting. Never thought about that, but it'll get clearer as we go. And then stay in standing if you would for a moment, but come and stand behind your chair. And do a motion as if you were taking a sweater off. So if you were to take a sweater off, usually you cross your hands and you grab the sweater at the bottom and you pull and come up toward over your head to get it off. And just see, what's that feel like today? And notice, do you have a habit of how you do it? When you look down, when you're getting ready to take it off, is your right hand on top or your left hand on top? Try it once or twice with the other hand on top. The good people don't take off their sweaters this way, but that's okay. You can try it for a moment. It's funny how our habits are so strong. And just feel, how far back do your elbows go comfortably before there's something that tells you, if I go further, it's going to hurt. It's like we all have a sense of where the brakes are for that movement. Okay. And this whole lesson can be done standing or sitting. So your choice, it will work, or at least for the next few steps. So if standing for an hour is too much, go ahead and sit down for this part, and then you'll stand up again later. If you're enjoying standing, feel free to stay standing. And take your right hand and put your fingers just gently on your cheek. So it's not a tight fist, but just kind of relaxed, but kind of the beginning of a fist. Okay. And notice where your elbow is pointing. And it might be pointing to a corner of the room in front of you. It might be pointing straight out to the side. Just notice where it's pointing right now. And begin to allow your elbow to come a little bit forward. So you'll feel your fingers roll on your cheek a little bit as your elbow comes forward and back to neutral. Just do that a few times. And notice, what do your eyes do when you do that? Is there a little bit of looking down with your eyes as your elbow goes forward and up a little as the elbow comes back? So the right hand is on the side of the cheek and you're bringing the elbow forward, and see if there's a little way that, especially you'll notice this if you're sitting, you'll feel your chest can compress a little bit, and that makes it easier for the elbow to go forward, and that you straighten up a little as the elbow comes back. And in standing, you might find the same thing. You might find your bottom moving in space a little. It might move a little backwards to counterbalance this weight that's coming in front of you. And when your elbow comes back, you might find your chest pushing forward a little. Okay, rest for a moment. And as always, if a movement doesn't feel good, do it smaller, rest, take more frequent breaks. And then put the same hand, your right hand, on your cheek again. And this time, as you bring your elbow forward, rotate your hand a little bit. And you'll feel as you do this, your shoulder blade gets pulled away from your spine. You could even put your other hand underneath here and feel the edge of your shoulder blade. Some of you will be able to reach that. And you can feel how the shoulder blade gets pulled out a little bit. And you might find that your body is turning a little bit as you do this, or that your head turns a little. And you could let as your elbow comes forward, you could let yourself turn away from the elbow, turning a little bit to the left. Okay? Rest in standing or sitting with your arms hanging down by your sides, and see if there's already a little difference in sensation between your left arm and your right arm. Does one arm hang a little longer than the other? One side of the neck might feel different than the other. Okay. So, same position, hand on the cheek. And this time, you're going to continue rotating your fist, but as your elbow comes forward, let your hand come forward as if, and with the palm facing up. And you might find that this feels nicest if your arm crosses your midline a little bit and goes over to the left. So that your hand starts on your right cheek, and as you release coming forward, it's like you're offering cookies to somebody in front of you. And the elbow doesn't get all the way straight, it just stays a little bent, but there's a release that happens. Now, it's possible to do it straight in front of you. And try that. So you're looking straight ahead, your shoulders stay straight ahead, and the arm goes straight. Or it's possible to turn to the left as it releases. Try turning to the left as it releases. So there's somebody standing over to the left side of you and you want to offer something in your hand. Yeah, good. Rest for a moment. Now put your right hand on your left upper chest, right on the pectoral muscles, kind of like you were pledging allegiance. So your hand is just on those muscles there. And bring the elbow up again. And bring it forward and back. See if you can feel those muscles in your chest, that there's a squeeze in the muscles as your elbow comes forward, and then it flattens out as your elbow goes backward. And that's part of what helps you rotate a little bit to the left as you go. That the squeeze in the muscles in the upper left pulls you so that your elbow, instead of going straight forward, goes forward and toward the middle. Okay. Rest for a moment. Then your hand on your cheek again. And as your elbow comes forward, it breaks free your hand and you're reaching. Now that you have the sense of this movement, see if let it cross your body each time as it comes forward. So it reaches a little over to the left side. Yeah. Begin to notice how your weight is shifting. So if you're in your chair, begin to let your right sit bone lift up off the chair as you're reaching over to the left with your hand. And if you're standing, you might find that your right foot goes up onto the ball of the foot as you reach across, so that you can reach a little further with this hand. And that in either case, your right hip might come a little bit forward as you release. Okay, And rest for a moment. So now we're going to imagine that we have a quiver of arrows hanging down our back. And instead of the hand on the cheek, you're going to reach back as if you wanted to grab the feathers on the top of the arrows, of one arrow, and then you're going to pull the arrow out of the quiver and release across the front of yourself. Yeah, let the arm cross in front. That's a really important part of this. Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. And do that same thing with your hip or with your foot on the floor, so that your right hip, in either case, as you release, it lifts a little and comes a little forward. Yes, And so your belly and your chest and your head can all turn a little to the left. Because if you were taking an arrow out and throwing it a little to the left, you'd want to look to see where it lands. So let your head follow your hand. Good. And rest for a moment. And then let's try it again with our eyes and our head held forward. So you pull the arrow out, your body turns, but leave your head and your eyes looking forward. It's kind of a strange motion. So as you throw it, let your shoulders rotate. Your right shoulder comes forward along with your right hip coming forward. And your body twists, but your head and your eyes don't. Okay? And then go back to letting your head and your eyes go a little to the left. And the hand, when you're releasing, palm up. You could see if you were to take that arrow out of the quiver and put your palm down, you'd kind of be throwing the arrow down into the ground in front of you. But if you can release it palm up, then it lofts higher in the air. All right. So now stand up and go for a walk and look for differences in sensation, one side of your body to the other, and see what feels new to you today. What's a new option in how you're walking after this movement? When you're, let's see, which foot would it be? When your left foot comes forward, what does your body do? Is there a little something different, something new in what your body does when you're transitioning your weight from the left foot in front and you're bringing the right foot through? There's some way that this twist in the body that we were playing with helps you bring your right leg to step. Okay. And does one arm swing a little better than the other? Do you notice a difference, especially in your right arm swing after this? If somehow something in the top part of your chest has a little bit more mobility. Okay. And come on back to your chair or your standing place. And if you're in the chair, notice, do you feel different on your two sit bones? Sometimes if you close your eyes, you can really sense this. And if you're standing, is it easier to stand more towards your right foot, like to transfer your weight to your right or to your left? And which side is easier to breathe in? Does one side of you feel a little calmer than the other? Okay. Let's begin playing with the left side. So the first movement, before we do that, imagine taking your sweater off and see if your right arm is a little easier or more comfortable than it was for that motion. If it can go a little bit further behind you as you try to take the sweater off. We're just trying to reorganize the top of the spine a little. Okay. Left hand on your cheek. And begin, first notice, where does your elbow point? Does it point a little forward? Does it point straight to the side? Where's your default place right now? And then begin bringing that elbow forward. And just feeling, how do you do that the first times you're doing it? Is there some rotation in your body? Or does it feel like it goes straight? Does the elbow come closer to your midline? And when you take your arm back, how do you know how far to take that elbow back? How far is enough? And when you take it back, is it still primed and ready to come forward? Or is there a place that it can settle while it's back and relax for a moment, and then it comes forward and can settle there for a moment? So that you separate the actions of forward and back a little, just to feel, makes it a little easier to feel what your body's doing. And when you separate that way, it might be clearer how your weight shifts a little. If you're standing, how your weight shifts in your feet. If you're sitting, how your weight shifts in your sit bone. And then rest. You know, this side is a different side. We have our arms move differently one side to the other. So be gentle with yourself. Make the movement smaller if you need to. Staying in comfort is more important than any range of motion. Hand back up. And add that little rotation. So as your elbow comes forward, your fist, your fingers rotate on your face. And begin to feel if there's a way that as it comes forward, there's a little flexing. And as it comes back, you arch a little. And maybe exaggerate that flex and arch. So when your elbow's back, look at the ceiling. When the elbow's forward and the hand rotates, pull your belly in and look down. Good. And rest for a moment. Anybody notice if they're breathing a little differently? If you breathe in through your nose, for some reason, for me, when I do this lesson, it's like getting my sinuses cleared out. I just feel more open in the breathing. Okay, now put your hand on your right pectoral muscles, on that flat spot there, and bring the elbow forward and feel the twist that can happen in your body, and how if you don't twist, try not twisting, and you'll really feel the pectoral muscles engaging and not engaging. If you twist, there's a little bit, perhaps less engagement of the muscles. So try them both. The elbows, the shoulders, so one shoulder goes forward and one goes backward. Or you leave the shoulders square and just the left shoulder comes forward. It's interesting, rest for a minute, how our shoulders can work as a team. You know, they can both, just without your arm up there, turn both shoulders. So as one goes forward, one comes backwards. It's kind of like you're a top and the center axis is just in the middle and you're rotating around yourself. Or you can leave one shoulder still and bring the other one forward and backward. If there's some independent motion possible, or this joint one. All right. So now begin to, your hand here on your cheek, you rotate the fingers, and this time as you rotate, you unbend your elbow part way as if you're throwing that arrow, offering the cookies. But it has that same rotation as it leaves. Then you unfold across yourself and your palm turns up. So when you look at yourself in your Zoom window, notice, is your hand right in front of your face when it releases? Or is it a little bit to the right side or a little bit to the left side? You could try all those variations. Sometimes going straight, sometimes right in front of yourself, sometimes across yourself. And then try ridiculously far across yourself, which really means you have to rotate your shoulders. If you wanted to like throw it out the window that's to the side of you. Yeah, good. And feel how that, as it comes, in particular, as it comes across yourself, feel how your left hip now can lift up off your chair, or your left hip when you're standing gets higher than your right hip, and you can come up on the ball of your left foot. And it always starts at your face, and you can play. It feels different. Like if you think of something soft and light, you're releasing a little bird to fly away with your hand. So it's just this like, oh, bird, spread your wings and fly. Or if you're thinking about throwing something at somebody, it's a very different motion. Yeah. So for now, more the releasing the little bird to fly. Yeah, good. And rest for a moment. Take that hand, reach back for your quiver of arrows that's hanging just behind your left shoulder. Grab an arrow by its feathers, lift it out of the quiver, and then release it palm up across yourself. Yeah. So the arrow comes up and out and across. Mm-hmm. Sense your weight shift. Feel how by lifting your left hip as you do it, it kind of makes this a little bit bigger, more fluid motion. If you're sitting and you clamp your hips, hold your breath, hold your tummy still, and try and do this, it just doesn't have that delicious feel to it. Or same thing in standing. But if you allow your torso to rotate and you push your belly out as you release the arrow, or release the bird to fly away. Good. And rest. Sit down for a moment and rest. Or stand and rest if that's what you feel like doing, that's fine too. And just sense the differences between your shoulders, perhaps from the beginning to now. If they feel a little lower, the tension, that fabric. Are you a Mars bar in the front, or the back that just stretches forever? Just feel which is tighter. And then stand up if you're standing, or stay sitting if you're sitting. And let's do that motion one more time with the left. And this time, leave your head and eyes pointed forward, but let your shoulders do that rotation under your head and eyes as you take the feathers out of the quiver and release them, but still kind of staring at a spot on the Zoom screen as you're releasing. Okay. And then go back to letting your head turn as you do it, as you release. So your head and shoulders both turn. It's interesting. For some of you, the turning your shoulders is quite a challenging thing. So let's stand still for a moment. Thinking of the shoulders as one unit with a pole going through the middle of you. Take one shoulder back, take your right shoulder back and your left shoulder forward. See if you can find that motion of the right shoulder going back and the left one forward. Mm-hmm. Now let your head go with your shoulders. So your head and shoulders both turn to the right and then they come back. It's like you're a unit. Okay. And then go back to doing it where you leave your head still and just turn the shoulders to the right. So that means the right shoulder goes backward and the left one goes forward. All right. Alrighty. So now try again with your left hand, taking the arrow out, and as you throw it across yourself, your head and your shoulders all turn to the right. And then leave your head in the middle, so your shoulders turn to the right, but your head doesn't go with it. This is important, and stop for a minute in walking, because when we walk, if our head is going way to the right and way to the left, we get nauseous. And we don't want to do that when we walk. We've got to be able to leave the head still, relatively still in the middle. All right, come on up to standing. And as you're standing, put your left foot forward, as if you were about to step on it. And then with your right hand, grab your arrow, and as you throw the arrow or release the bird, shift forward onto your left foot. So there's a way that this throwing helps you get your weight all the way onto the left foot, because your shoulders are rotating and your belly's rotating. So you're throwing the arrow across yourself and it pulls you onto the left foot. So some of you are throwing your arrows straight ahead, and that's not going to work to turn your body. So really check in with yourself. You want to throw the arrow so it goes in front of the left side of your body. Yes, there you go. Yeah. And feel how that takes your weight and puts it onto your left foot. Okay. Now stand and just put your right foot forward. And with your left hand, reach back for your arrow and throw it across yourself so it comes over to the right side of your body. And as you do that, feel how it brings your weight forward and over your right foot. So there's something about the weight coming forward over the right foot that you get to a place where you can feel how your left foot might lighten and you might be able to bring it forward. So I see some of you are in chairs. If you're doing this in your chair, come and sit toward the front of your chair. And if you're standing, stay standing. Either way can work. Because what I'm going to have you do is alternate. So you put your left foot forward and you throw the right arrow, and that brings you over to your left foot or your left sit bone if you're sitting. And actually, if you're sitting, sit as far back in your chair as you can go to start with, because you're going to use this in other lessons. You know how we've walked our sit bones forward? You're going to use this throwing the arrows to walk your sit bones forward. And if you're standing, to walk your feet forward. So you throw one across and take a step with it. And then there's a timing where you pick the other arrow and throw it, and that gets you onto your other foot. So you're going for either in your chair or walking forward in your chair, or standing, walking forward, throwing an arrow every step. Yeah. And go in as slow motion as you need to really feel. Some of you are doing this just standing in place. And so if you're doing it standing in place, switch your feet each time, because you're throwing the arrow toward the foot that's in front. And if you're feeling secure enough on your feet to try walking with this, I really encourage that, trying to do the walk with it. And then if not, sit down in your chair so that you can lift a sit bone and walk it forward as you throw the arrow. And see if that makes this walking in your chair, and then push yourself back to the back and do it again. See if it makes this walking in the chair easier than it's been. Okay. And then just go for a walk. So everybody, even if you're sitting, stand up, go for a little walk. And come and have a seat. Just letting Mira back in and making her co-host again. Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
What did you notice new or different in your walking after this, if anything?
I feel looser.
You feel looser? Uh-huh.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay. So if you want to say something else, unmute yourself. I saw a lot of hands for feeling looser afterwards. The thing about this walking, when you turn your body as you land on the foot, and the actually let's all try the sweater now that we've done the left hand too. See what it's like as you take the sweater off, if your left arm is a little more comfortable as it goes up there. Yeah.
It is.
And that comfort, that ability to take it back, as you take it back, feel how your chest pushes forward there. And it's that pushing the chest forward in the top part of your chest that makes this motion easier. And it's that same thing that helps even out the tension between the back of yourself and the front of yourself, and allows you to carry your head upright on your body. And allows you, did anybody feel a little lighter on their feet? Like it was just a little easier to get the legs forward. Let's try something. We're gonna take this out for a moment so that you see what it feels like when you don't do this. So stand up. And hold your chest really still facing forward. Don't let it turn at all. And take one foot and bring it forward. Oh, it's like a little scary. You end up taking these little tiny steps if your torso doesn't turn at all. Okay. And then relax your belly. And just in place, swing your arms, both arms, and turn the shoulders. Leaving your head facing forward though, if you can. And then use that swing to help you bring a leg forward. And it's funny because the leg that comes forward, if your arms swing to the right, bring your right foot forward. And if your arms, as your arms swing to the left, bring your left foot forward. This is all the counterbalance between the top and the body of the top and bottom of our body that gives us the ability to balance. But for some people, this is a lot to work on it in standing is challenging because of balance things. But playing with this idea, and you can sit in front of a mirror and play with this, of turning your shoulders one way and the other way while leaving your head still. And then sometimes go with it, sometimes go opposite. And that movement of offering something across yourself is a really nice way to get into the muscles in the upper chest to even them out so that this rotation becomes possible in the body. And then play with it the other way. And know that this can be something, if you want to, if you're feeling tight and everything is bound up, throw a couple arrows. Release a few birds across yourself. We have blueberries and we cover them with blueberry netting. And sometimes the birds get in under the netting and you just feel awful because they're beating themselves trying to get out. So I always try and release the blueberry netting. And sometimes the birds will get out and sometimes they're stuck. So my husband grabbed one of the birds, and he's used to chickens, so he folded the wings in neatly. So he's got a little bird in his hand. And he's like, all right, how am I going to release this bird? So he threw it, and he said it was really funny watching it. It turned from a ball, and then all of a sudden it was like it realized it had wings, and the wings took off. But so as you're releasing this bird, imagine it as this little ball and then bursting into bird across yourself. It's kind of a lovely image of, or like a butterfly taking off. But this one movement really helps for a lot of the coordination in walking and releases the neck and shoulders and the face a little bit. All right. So come and sit down for a moment. There is not going to be a class this Thursday, July 1st. So we're part of the July 4th holiday weekend. And then we will start up again in July. It's going to use the same link that we've used in June. So you can still please go through the Parkinson's Foundation through the Eventbrite for signing up, but it should all be the same, so it should work the same way it's been working. And anybody have any, Bud, go ahead.
Do you need us to re-register through Eventbrite?
That would be great, Bud, if you could go to the Eventbrite page and then re-register so we can sort of have a list of who's coming. But if you have any difficulties in that, just do know that I do take attendance every week, so we do still know that you're here, and the code and password will stay the same.
Okay, thanks.